Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, not much to say. Sun's shining, snow's gone. Tell you what, Thursday, say we had snow on the ground. This is a good one for you, Stave Shop. We had over an inch here. I drive to the bottom of the hill and there's no snow down there. None at all in Richford. So there you go. Anyway, what's what? Electronic ignition came. So I've been able to check it out, how long the wires were. They reach up to here fine. So we'll do one bracket and we're going to mount the CDI unit on here, as you will see. You can see I put this on, and I'll show you some more stuff that I've set up so we can know where things are going to go for the back. I could actually have shown you a good 2-hour long video of me doing nothing but sitting here thinking, measuring, drawing, thinking, looking at pictures, thinking, but I think I've got everything sorted out, so I know what's going to happen. The other thing is, I'm back in the brown. I washed it twice. You probably can't tell on the camera, it's not brown really. Anyway, the one thing is, that black one had a hole in this pocket and my bloody 6-inch ruler kept falling through it. Alright, so what we're going to do this week? This week we're going to do the exhaust system and the silencer, and you'll see the silencer end is a little complicated, so we're going to start off by doing the exhaust pipes, because as you remember they don't fit properly. That's why I've put this on, so that I can make sure everything is alright. We've got clearance for the chain case and stuff like that. So as I say, we're going to start off with that. We're going to do some work here to get this fitted. Then when that's fitted, you see I've tightened this up so that won't move. It's exactly where I want it. So when I've got this fixed, we'll tighten that one up and then we'll know exactly how this is going to go. But let me show you what we're going to do, and then we'll set to actually with this quick little bracket, as I mentioned, so that that's out of the way and finished. Can't think of anything else. If I do, I'll mention it later on. Right, let's get these little ignition mounts out the way, and then I can basically forget about the frame, apart from things like tabs for the oil tank and the silencer. Now then, the ignition coil comes with a bracket like this. You've got to put a washer. I've actually put 2 on there, or else, as you will see there, if you bolt that up flush with that, you can't get out the way wire. You can't get the spade connector on there. So they tell you to put a washer in. I just put 2 in to give myself a bit more clearance, or you could go mad and make a little spacer up or whatever you wanted. So that's got to go on the frame somewhere. The other thing we've got is the little CDI unit. Now I had a slight accident with the little CDI unit, because coming from the UK, of course, everything's metric, and 1/4-inch bolt wouldn't quite go through. So I was thinking I'll drill it, and I thought, oh no, it looks alright, I'll tap it and that'll help me to put it on. So I tapped a thread through it, fine. When I screwed the bolt in, it snapped off. So it's been all epoxied on. This is the way I was planning to do it, so that I could get it here, because what we've got, you see, is that's tightened up to there. I can put that and get your bolt just the right length, so it will go in there like that. That on. That on. Then I can actually get a spanner on the nut on the inside and tighten those 2 nuts up. So that's fine, and there's plenty of wire, as I say. So the other question is, do I put a bracket on the frame and bolt that to there? Or what I have done in the past, actually, is bend this bracket so that it's on like that, and there's just nicely enough space to get the coil on, because this bracket is actually tapped 6mm, of course, 6 by 1.0. So that's going to go on there. They're going to go on there. See, everything will be fine. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bend this bracket just on there So that'll go flat on there, and I can bronze that on, and the coil will just, then the coil won't be sticking down too much. Right? I mean, I could do it like that. Bolt it onto a bracket that's on there. Oh, decisions. Let me think about it. And my phone's starting to ring. Right, I decided to bend this bracket. So I'll bronze that on there. Put it about there. And that'll be perfect. That phone call, by the way, was the repair place where I take my Jag for its servicing and everything. I bought 2 new parts to go on it. Washer pump, and the speedometer is electronic. So there's a transducer that goes on the gearbox. Neither of them fit. I tell you. What with exhausts and Jaguar parts. Anyway, I'm going to put that on there like that. And that gives me just nicely enough room. So we'll mark that. I'll put a clamp on it. And I'll bronze the bracket on. So there we go, that's all nicely on there. Wires will all reach, everything's good. So let's have a look at this exhaust system. Alright, so this is what's been getting the severe looking at. As I said, first of all we're going to get the Siamese part sorted, but I thought I'd show you this. Right, now what I've done is chop the wheel up so it's where it will be when the suspension is fully compressed. This is giving us our chain line, and don't forget here we'll want about another ½ inch because there's going to be a chain guard over it, keep the mud off the tyre. Speaking of tyres, that little bit of tyre I've had soaking in some rubber solution under a grow lamp for the last few days, so nearly half the wheel size now. Be round before we're finished. Anyway, problems. There's not a lot of space in here. There's not a lot of space up here. This isn't going to be there, of course. And I looked at a bunch of photographs, and there'd be the chain and the chain guard, and then they seem to have a silencer in here, and really there was a little gap. This is with the wheel right down. I thought, how the hell can that wheel move and not hit that silencer? But anyway, I fiddled around. This is the one that I made that goes on my BSA. So that would go in there. See, I want to keep things away from the carb. I don't want that to get too hot. I want to have enough space in here to get a decent sized oil tank in. The Beezer, I think it's 2 1/4 litres, and I use a 1 1/4 litre one, I think, that I made up. And for the 650 twin, and I imagine it's the same, the tank, the capacity is 3 litres. So I'm wanting to get about 1.5 litres of oil in here. So we'll see that next week. So I was looking at, as I say, various photographs, and D&C Classics up in North Yorkshire, where I'm getting the sprockets from, the sounds that they make is sort of square, well, rectangular in section, and it goes inside here and comes all the way up. It's very like the one actually on my Scarpa, and the ones you see on the gas and stuff. It's long and thin and it goes up there. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. This has a bend in it, so I'm going to show you that in a minute. So what we're going to do is tuck the exhaust in. You'll see how I'm going to do that. Then there's going to be an expansion part here, because it won't be that very long. Then we're going to have that rectangular part going up here a little bit with an outlet about here. Now I'm not going to put any baffles of any sort in this. What we're going to rely on is what's known as laminar flow. Right? You get it in gases, you get it in liquids. I used to have to deal with it when we were sampling tank lines. So anyway, those of you who know them, you remember, what was it, Velocets and a couple of other things, had what was known as a Brooklands can. And that was a silencer. It looked a bit like a fish. It was quite large width, but it was only thin. And at the end it had these fishtail outlets, and the idea was, instead of being round, they were thin like that. So the only sound waves, the only pressure waves, whatever you want to call them, that could get out were the ones that went like this. Any that went like that, or any short ones, just wouldn't get out. They'd get reflected around. So that's why they call it laminar, because it's made in layers. It doesn't spike out all over, it's in layers. And that, of course, means you tend to get large amplitude waves, which are deeper sounding. So they're very effective silencers, and because it's going to be this length and this shape and everything, I think it'll work fine. Won't be too noisy, obviously won't be that restrictive, so that's going to fit in there. So let me show you what I'm going to do with this piece of pipe first. Right, well, here's how they put bends in the exhaust pipe for it to go outside of the frame. And this is quite fortunate for us in the way they've done this dog leg, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut it here. Now you see this follows that dog leg. So this side is now going to be on that side. So you see this pipe will go along and then it'll go in like that way. So we're going to cut a piece out to move this back here. So it's going to come along and it's going to dog leg in and just take us nicely into the first expansion box section of the exhaust system. But first we've got to sort this Siamese part out. Now they're the pipes in. This bit fits inside this one, so this one's got a couple of slots in for a clamp to clamp it up. Now when that's in like that, we're about the right height here, but we're half a hole over from the exhaust port. If I put it so it's on the exhaust port, I'm not sure how you're going to be able to see this. Let me look through the viewfinder, see what you've got. There, you can see that that's going like that and that's going like that. Now I think they're about the right height, they're just at the wrong angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one about here, right? That's just after the slots go to there. We're going to cut it about here. Now if I cut it there, I think just about get in to weld it up all the way around. So all we're going to do is cut it off, but we're going to do a little experiment in a minute, because we're going to try, I think, cut it at an angle. We'll cut it off there, we'll fit it onto this, and then we'll offer this up onto the port, which you can't see, and we'll be able to see where it touches and where it doesn't, so we can just ease it whichever way it is. So finally when I push that on there, it's going to be up flush with this. There'll be a slight kink in that obviously, but it'll be flush to it. Then we'll tack it, and then we'll make sure we can take the pipe off and put the pipe back on. And if that's alright, we'll weld it up and this end's done. So let me show you what the little experiment is we're going to do. Now this might seem obvious to some of you, but I thought I'd explain my thinking here. What I've done is I've taken a piece of tube. Now imagine this was that exhaust pipe, and we know the one that goes onto it wants to be at an angle. This wants to be at an angle. So what I've done is I've cut it at an angle. Right, so the way it was cut is straight. But as I start to turn that, you see the angle it's at changes. In fact, if I went all the way around. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep offering this up and try and mark the tube we're going to cut, this one, so that instead of just cutting it straight, we cut it at a little bit of an angle, and hope that by manipulating this we can get it from being like that to
probably about like that, and that'll then be pointing in the right direction, or that is the hope. Maybe that I'll completely screw it up, as you've seen me do before, but I think it's worth a try. So let's have a look at it. There it is from this right hand side. Now you see, if I put that in there, going in straight as it goes in, see how it's over there, and if I put that in there, you see, it's like that. It's almost right. Still not quite parallel, but see, as I say, as that goes in there, this should go on here. I don't see any other way of getting this pipe on. I might have a bit more fiddle around, but I don't really see it. So what I want is, as that comes up to here, I want that to be sliding into that pipe. So in other words, this one and that one should really be parallel, which they're not. Let me fiddle around with this a bit more and then I'll bring you back before we start sawing pieces off it. Okay, just to try and make things easier, what I've done is I've cut the piece off there. It was just, you know, with that long piece waggling around, it was difficult to manage. So I've just spent some time here trying to wangle this, because you realise these ports split outwards, so they point away from each other. I've been trying to find somewhere that these would go together. This one now is pointing over this way. It needs to be round here, and you can see it's still not right to go into there. Tried that first. Now, unless there's some really, see it, it's just out a bit. If that bend was a little bit tighter, I could probably get that in. It would be nice if I could put this in the pipe bender and just tighten that bend up, but I can't. So we've got to make this piece on here point across this way a little bit so that that'll slide into it. It's the only way I can think of to see this getting in there. Let me fiddle on a bit more. Right, well, I worked on this and wrestled it and everything, and I just couldn't find any way to get it on. So what I've done is I've cut this piece off there, and I just cut it off straight because I couldn't get this to be as it was, if you like. It was laying on the top, and I knew that once it came down the angle would be different. So anyway, there's that piece. That goes on there like that. And you see, look, that actually fits in now. Look at that. That's on the exhaust stub. It's on there. So now let's see how far. Can you see it? Yep. Oh, look at that. 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do now, I think I won't cut any more off this. I'll cut it off that piece, because as I mentioned, I don't want to get too far in here or I won't be able to get into welding. So what we need to do is we need to cut this from there parallel with that. Right, let me finish marking it and I'll go and cut it. So, there we go. So I'll tack this 2 or 3 places, or where I can get at it anyway. And then I'll make sure this pipe will pull out and push back in, and then we'll weld it up. Right, that's tacked in a few places. And I've tightened it on there and made sure it's clear of the chain case. There we go. That looks quite nice. Now what I'm going to do actually is weld this with a stainless filler rod. It's going to damage the chrome a little bit, but with any luck it'll polish up and the stainless obviously won't rust. So I've done it before with chrome pipes and it holds up pretty well. So there we go. What can you see? Let me just open you out a bit more. And I've got a piece of cardboard in there. We're nice and clear. Like that. We'll go like that a little bit. Yep, that's just nice. Just nice. Okay, let me finish welding this up and then we'll look at that other bend. And there it is, all finished. I've had to weld it here as well. That took it in, but it had it pointing up a bit, so I've had to just cut that and put it there. I tell you, getting old doesn't help with TIG welding. Even with my hands rested and everything, you've got that slight, you know, I mean, I'm not exactly shaking, but when you've got the weight of your torch and the sort of stick out and everything, the end of it wobbles about. Anyway, there it is, all clamped on. So now it's cardboard time. I've already made, what can you see there? Yeah, you can see all it. I've already made the piece that goes on there to clamp up with its slots. I did that while I was waiting for that to cool. So that's going to go on there like that, and that'll clamp up. So now I've got to make the piece that's going to, hang on, got to make the piece that's going to come here and go up in there, which is what all the cardboard is for. So quite pleased with that. As I say, using the, there's a little line of discoloration on each side of the weld, but the weld, you see, polishes up and the weld won't rust. So it almost looks as if it's been, well, it looks like here where it's been welded and then chromed. That one wasn't brilliant. I don't know, that was probably the best. Still can't get just that nice little sort of butting the tube right up. I should be able to do it without any filler at all, but I still use filler with these because it gives me the chance to polish it up. But I still get the bumps. I mean, I've penetrated all right, but this one, actually, I was thinking the tube was thicker than it was. I had too many amps on and I melted too much filler rod into it, but it still looks fine. All right, let me start cutting cardboard and then I'll bring you back. This is going to be quite a complicated shape because, as I say, we want a little expansion chamber here, but with the chain line there, obviously it can't go down below that. I can bring it up to top a little. Then the tyre sticks in a little bit more than that, so although I could make it level with that, it's going to have to come over to get past the tyre. Then there are various other things, so we're going to do it in stages. All right, this is going to be the end piece. That's going to go on there. That's going to go on there. Come on, there it goes. All right, it'll be at a slight angle to bring this round square, I think. Now then, at the back, so we want it to come along, then it's got to go up there. See, we want to maintain our volume, so instead of going straight, it's going to come along and then go up. So it's going to go up at one angle here, it's going to go up at a different angle at the bottom, and then it's got to dog leg in a little bit. So this is what I've come up with. So that's the expansion part. Then that's the bit going up there, and there is our little dog leg. So that's going to go in there, going to go on there. Right, so we've got our expansion-y piece, we're clearing the chain, we've got our little dog leg to, so we're out there, see, and then it comes in a little bit for there. Then, hang on a second, I've got a third piece cut, which is the base to a certain amount. Again, it's wide where this expansion piece is, then it's got the dog leg at the back, and we're going inside this tube. So that's going to go there, that's going to go in there, then of course it'll be longer at that end to go up there. So what I'm going to do now is lengthen this piece and then tape that up, and then we can start looking at this piece here, because this is going to have to dog leg a little bit as well. And I was just thinking, if it is a bit noisy, what I can always do is weld some tube onto that to go inside, so it'll just slip in through that, and then we could put some holes in that, or slots or whatever. But I think it's going to be all right. So actually it's lunchtime, so I'm going to put some tape on that, to that and that. So we'll build sort of three sides of it. Then we have to work out what the top's going to be like and what the front's going to be like. I don't know if I'm going to make the front come out a little bit, so it's going to go in there, dog leg around that, but at an angle again, and then come out here, because I'm losing sort of 3/4 of an inch of depth here. I could bring it back out and still keep it, you know, within the slimness of the bike. But I'll break for lunch, and then when I come back I'll have that piece taped up. There it is with the bottom and the end piece taped up to make it look more box-like. I'm nicely clearing the tyre and this tube. You notice I've cut a little bit here. That actually bends down like that. That's because as I was looking at it, it suddenly struck me the pancake filter might get in the way. So I went and measured the one that's on the end field, and it comes to about here. It's 2 1/4 inches and it's 3.5 wide. So I might have to adjust that a little bit more, but we shall see. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this piece on here, bring it back out and extend it up to there and make this side and the top. So here it is with the outside on it. I think what I'm going to do here is, rather than curve it there, I'm going to extend this up a little and have the outlet here. That way I can put a bracket on the back of here with a captive nut or whatever. Well, actually you could get into it easily. And we can have a mounting there and a mounting somewhere down at the bottom. So let me cut a top, which will stiffen all that up, and decide exactly how I'm going to come up there. Right, that's the final shape. I've actually cut a piece out of the mudguard here, but when the saddle's on it'll all look good, because the saddle will be moulded around there. So this is it. See, it's going to be just there. I can put a mounting here and that'll be fine. So let me cut a piece to match the top, and then when I'm satisfied with it all, I might do some little curves and things, because I don't like it being so angular. If you're wondering why I didn't make it taller or just go from there to there, I'm trying to keep things in this plane here, from this tube to that tube, because my foot will be here, my leg will be there, and I don't want things sticking out. Be the same when we do the oil tank on the other side. It's going to be sloped, it's not going to stick out here. I want this to be as clear as can be. With the engine and the footrest, your boot's going to be about here, so you'll still be moving about a bit, but I think we'll be alright. Who knows, I might even curve that over when I actually do the top part. I might put the bottom in, sides in, and then curve this side anyway inwards like that and make a slightly curved top. But anyway, let me cut a top piece and just put a couple of bits of tape on, because at the moment it's still floppy, and we'll make sure everything's all right. So that's it. I've put a couple of bridges a piece across the top just to hold it together, because I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do the top yet. I might even, actually looking at it, slim the very top part in about 1/8 of an inch, just to give me a little more clearance for the tyre. But that's the shape of it, so I can cut out the sides, and I can cut the bottom out. As I say, I might just make it on the back side, come in very slightly, only about 1/8 of an inch, something like that should do it. And then I'll weld that up, and I'll weld this end piece on. And I could probably put a piece from there to there, because that's more or less tucked in. Then I can see about maybe tapping that over, as I say, just to keep it curved in a little bit. I don't know, we will see. Alright, so the next thing for me to do is to cut all the tape, well, cut the tape in the appropriate places so that I get the pieces back out in one, and then cut some 16th alloy, and then we'll see about tacking it and then welding it up. Right, I've cut out the first couple of bits of alloy and welded them on. So that goes on there like so. That goes on. Suddenly struck me it was rather silly measuring the air filter. I just went and got the air filter off the end field to put it on there. So as you can see, I've got plenty of room. The other thing was, it suddenly struck me that up here, with the silencer being sort of just behind the tube, I wasn't sure if I had enough space to fit the rear suspension unit on, because of course the spring part is wide. But I seem to be alright, but just on the safe side, seeing as I was going to make the outlet a bit thinner, I've taken a little bit off here. Also, just in case you noticed and thought about it, oh, come on, I made that a good fit. I sloped those, so it, you know, the gas didn't hit a corner. It's going to be funneled into that part. Alright, so next I'm going to cut the back, and then when that's on, I'll work out exactly what I'm going to do with this front part. So I'll sort of video these one bit at a time. So here's the back side with its kink in it. So that is going to go on there. And what we'll do is get a block like that. I'll clamp that, the base to the block, and then I'll clamp the block to that, and that will hold it all together so I can get it all these edges attack, and then I can weld them round. And then when it's on good and solid all the way around to here, then I can get this bent to match that, and up here, and we're going to make the top end as a sort of little piece. So do this, then we'll cut the outside piece, because as I say, the outside piece, see, I put some curves in. It's going to be a bunch of, see, it isn't just going to be flat like this. The top part I'm going to have to fold over or curve over, which means some little cuts to allow it to curve, and then strange corners. That's why I'm doing this one. It's going to be easy, and it's going to hold the whole thing rigid. So let me get it clamped up and do some welding. So there's that bit welded onto the base and the front plate. So now, as I say, I'm going to cut this one out, and I'm going to cut this one wider than the template because it's got a bend up there a little bit. I'll have to sort of be doing this tappity tap tap, and I want to bend it round there. Probably fold that corner up, just round it out as best I can, and then when that's in there to that, we'll see about making this top piece, and then we're going to make our little outlet piece. However we're going to do that, I haven't decided yet. Probably be thin, but see, I thought that was going to be up there. Hold on a second. Well, that hasn't ended up quite where I thought it would actually. See, that goes on there. I can't get it on because this is 12mm and that's ½ inch, so it's 12.6 or whatever. But actually it looks as if I've got loads of space. For some reason I thought that was going to be up here. Yeah. Anyway, let's make this piece, make the piece to come up to here, and I can always sort of cut it off and completely make a new piece to go in there to bring it up out here, however we decide to do it. And here's the next stage. Oh, I've slipped up slightly. I forgot to put the bends in here to go around that. Put those in, made my little cuts. I started to curve that over. So that goes in there now. That. Put that on to pull it straight on the pipe, exhaust pipe. Just don't forget, you should always do that. If you leave things just hand tight or pushed on, they can be just flopping. There we go. So I'll keep working this over, and then I'll make a piece to go in, and then just a plain piece to go in there, and then we've got to think of something for the end. But I think that's going to look quite good once it's polished up. There'll be a saddle on there. Maybe you can put a little bit of a cover on. We shall see. Alright, surprising how long this takes. It's actually the end of the day. So, it's Wednesday. So we've got tomorrow. We'll get this finished, and that'll be good. And here's the next stage. I've put in a piece along the top. As I say, it's slimmed there. So that now is going to go in there like so. Right. So now all we're going to do is make a little doodad for there. Hang on, let's tighten this up. I'm admonishing you to make sure everything's tight, and then I'm not doing it. Once that's, I know some people like to see the weld, and the weld isn't bad, certainly for aluminium, or aluminium alloy, but once that's smoothed in, there's a little bump there, that'll all disappear. Put this piece in here, so I'm going to put this piece in here next, and then we're going to make up a tailpipe thing for that, and we're all flipping well set on. Oh, and then of course I'm going to put bracket on there, and somewhere fastening it up here. I think I want two mounts. I can put one on that to go right to the frame there. That would be nice. I'll put it on the bottom at an angle so you don't see it there. Come down onto there, and I'll think of something for the top. So let me go and cut this. Alright, I've done it again. The bracket I was talking about is going to go on there. So rather than weld it onto there, I'm going to make it an L-shaped one, so I can weld it onto the bottom and it'll come down. Put the bracket on there. Alright. We're still nicely clear of the chain. Because our chain guard's going to be out here, so that'll be fine. And I'm back yet again. Sorry about the noise. It's pouring down, and as you know, I have a metal roof. So we come to the last piece, which is this bit here. Now, as you can see, I've actually put a curve in which more or less follows that contour. So that, and I've done this end. So that's going to go in there. Keeps falling in, so I'm going to have to think of some way to fix one in. But that's going to go in there like that. Get welded up, and that'll give us a nice curved top. It'll just look nicer. Alright, so let me get that in there, and then we'll see to the nozzle end. Now I haven't quite finished dressing all this up, but there's that piece in. As you can see, I've got it to curve right across the top and blended all that in. So it's starting to look something like. Put that clip on, just close this up. There we go. We'll put it back on. Get a wider one for when I do it. That doesn't look too bad, does it? Now then, how are we going to do? I think I'm just going to put a finished piece on there. Got to keep that laminar flow, see, so although pipe gets up to here, it'll all be in layers, more or less. I don't want to put a round one on because we'll cause more constriction. See there, it's opened out, it's starting to get itself sorted, so here we're going to have either very thin waves or we're going to have nice big waves. So it'll come out there. I'll just make this, I'll make a piece to go on the end, make it separately, and then we'll weld it on. So I don't have to worry about that at all now, because I'm not sure how long this video is. Oh, still got loads of space from the tyre, we're not touching anything. So I think what I'll do next is make up these two brackets. So with brackets, one thing you've got to think about, the reason my voice is changing is because I keep walking around the camera. And I might be talking loud because, hang on, I've got my earplugs in. Oh, that's better. And it's raining again. Alright, what was I going to say? Yeah, it's very easy. You get so involved in what you're doing, you put a bracket on, and then you find, great, you've got to take things off and you can't get it off because of the bracket. So you've got to make sure your brackets aren't somewhere that's going to foul getting things on and off. And also, for instance, I just changed, well, didn't change, I cleaned the air filter on my Scorper, and it took me 30 minutes to put the damn filter back on because it's down inside a little hole, and then you've got to get a bolt through the centre of it. So I always try to make things so that, you know, we put this silencer on, I don't want it to have to be so you've got to take the back wheel out to get it off, otherwise you've got to take the chain off, you know, and all sorts of stuff. So we've got to think of a way of making a bracket here. So the thing would be to have the bracket on the frame on the inside of this bracket, so that when I take the bolt out we can just take this out, whereas if I have the bracket on the silencer behind this bracket, which would be so easy to do, then when you take the bolt out you find of course it won't come out because the bracket's there. So that was a long-winded way of saying you've got to take care about your brackets and give them a bit of a thinking about. Alright, so let me go and I'll make that on 1/8. Bend a piece of 1/8, decide where I'm going to put it, and then we'll get that done. I'm quite pleased with that. Right then, pouring down again. I've put a bracket on and I'm going to put it on the inside. I was going to put it on the outside, but then I found that if I put it on the outside I couldn't get it off the exhaust pipe. I'll take the exhaust pipe off first. Whereas this way it will go on. You see? Like that. And again we'll tighten this up so this is particularly important actually. Let me see. Yep. If the pipe's level it doesn't matter so much. But if you've got a pipe, say, that points up and you don't tighten this, that could be just hanging on that, just a bit loose. You make your bracket up, and then when you put that on and tighten that up, it comes up a bit and your bracket isn't in the right spot. So make sure we're on. Oops. Everything is where it should be, which I'll check again in a minute. Then I've made up a little bracket for it. Okay, I've got to pull it forward a little bit from where it was. Now bronze that on, put a bolt in, bronze that on, and we're done. So let me do that. So that's that bronzed on. Actually, that's remarkably tighter. I might try and think of something for up here, but at the moment I'm not going to worry. I'm going to make the end piece for this, because now I've got it on all fixed. I know exactly where it's going to be. Can't make me mad at whether to go up with that and make it a bit smaller or what. I'll think about it. Right, this is as much as I'm going to do on it this week. There's only one bracket to go on, but I haven't decided where to do it. What I've done is slim this in more. See? So that I think is going to work fine. So let's put it on. Come on down. There we go. Here we go. That goes on there like that, and then that goes on there. Like that. Let me tighten this up, and as I say, that's going to be it for this week. And next week, now we know where this is, I can do the oil tank. So that tightened up there. There we go. I'm quite pleased with that, I'll have to admit. Lots of space everywhere. Yep. So all we're going to do now is wait a few weeks and hear what it sounds like. Oh, by the way, if any of you were wondering about when I had those rock shocks and I said this was 1/2 inch and the rock shock was 12mm, they were just the ones off my bike. I hadn't ordered the wrong ones, so they haven't come yet. So there we go. I just gave that a quick sandblast so that it was uniform, as it will be when it's polished. So you see I've sanded out the welds, rounded the edges over. I'm really pleased with that. Well, okay, that's it for this week's, folks. Still pouring down, but at least it's better than snow. So until next week, you lot stay safe and enjoy yourselves.